Dr. Lisa Park had been working in Antarctica for 3 years, and she thought she had seen everything the frozen continent could throw at her. The research station felt like home now, even though it was probably the loneliest place on Earth. She was a scientist who studied alien life forms, though she had never actually found any. That was about to change. It was a Tuesday morning when the machine started acting strange. The ground-reading equipment kept beeping in ways it never had before. Something was down there, buried deep under the ice. Really deep. Lisa stared at the screen, rubbing her tired eyes. The readings didn't make sense. "Hey, come look at this," she called to her teammate, Dr. Mike Torres. He walked over, coffee mug in hand, looking just as confused as she felt. "What am I looking at?" he asked, squinting at the colorful patterns on the monitor. "I think we found something big. Really big. And it's giving off some kind of energy." Lisa's heart was beating faster now. In all her years of digging through ice and rock, she had never seen readings like this. The energy signature was unlike anything in their textbooks. It pulsed with a steady rhythm, almost like a heartbeat. But that was impossible. Nothing could survive 2 miles under Antarctic ice. Nothing from Earth anyway. Mike called over the rest of their small team. There were only 5 of them at the remote station. 2 scientists, 2 engineers, and 1 military guy who was supposed to keep them safe and make sure they followed the rules. His name was Colonel Rodriguez, and he didn't like it when they did things without asking permission first. "We need to dig," Lisa said, pointing at the readings. "Whatever this is, it's been down there for a long time, maybe thousands of years." Colonel Rodriguez crossed his arms. "You can't just start digging random holes in Antarctica. There are procedures. Forms to fill out, people to call." But Lisa was already putting on her heavy winter coat. She had spent her whole life wondering if humans were alone in the universe. Now something was calling to her from deep under the ice, and she wasn't going to let paperwork stop her. "The readings are getting stronger," said Jenny, one of the engineers. "It's like whatever's down there knows we're here." That sent a chill down everyone's spine that had nothing to do with the Antarctic cold. They worked for 2 days straight, using heated drills and excavation equipment to cut through layer after layer of ancient ice. The deeper they went, the stranger things became. The ice around the object was different, clearer than normal ice, and it seemed to glow with a faint blue light. On the second night, as Lisa was taking a short break, she noticed something odd. The aurora lights in the sky above them were moving, in patterns she had never seen before. They seemed to be pointing down toward their dig site like glowing arrows in the darkness. "Are you seeing this?" She whispered to Mike, who was standing next to her, both of them staring up at the dancing lights. "I've never seen the aurora do that," he said quietly. "It's like it's trying to tell us something." When they finally reached the object, nobody spoke for a long minute. 2 miles down, surrounded by ice that might have been there since before humans existed, was something that definitely didn't belong on Earth. It looked like a giant crystal egg, about the size of a small car. The surface was smooth and clear, and inside they could see something that made their hearts stop. It was shaped like a person, but not quite human. The figure was tall and thin, with skin that seemed to glow from within. "Is it alive?" Jenny whispered, as if speaking too loudly might wake whatever was inside. Lisa stepped closer, her scientific training taking over her fear. The being inside the crystal looked female, though her features were different from any human. Her skin was almost see-through, with a soft blue glow running through what looked like veins. Her arms and legs were longer than they should be, and her eyes, even closed, seemed too large for her face. "The readings are off the charts now," Mike said, checking his instruments. "This thing is putting out more energy than our entire power generator." Colonel Rodriguez was on his radio trying to call headquarters, but the signal kept cutting out. "Something's interfering with our communications," he said, frustration clear in his voice. As they carefully moved the crystal container to their research facility, Lisa couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. Not by the thing inside the crystal. Her eyes were still closed, but by something else. Something in the sky, maybe, or just beyond their vision. The crystal egg fit perfectly in their main lab, as if it was meant to be there. As soon as they set it down, it started making a sound. Not quite music, not quite humming, but something beautiful and sad at the same time. The sound seemed to come from everywhere at once, vibrating through their bones. "Should we try to open it?" Mike asked, though he didn't sound like he really wanted to. Lisa was about to answer when something incredible happened. The eyes inside the crystal opened. Not slowly, like someone waking up from sleep, but all at once, like someone who had been pretending to sleep. And they looked right at Lisa. The eyes were the deepest black she had ever seen, like looking into space itself. But they weren't empty or scary. They were full of intelligence and something else. Loneliness. The kind of deep, aching loneliness that Lisa recognized because she felt it too. Then the crystal started to melt. Not breaking or cracking, but melting like ice in the sun, turning into drops of light that fell to the floor and disappeared. The being inside sat up slowly, gracefully, like she was made of water and starlight. When she spoke, her voice didn't come through the air like normal voices. It came from inside their heads, soft and clear and somehow sad. "Finally," she said, looking directly at Lisa. "Someone who understands the value of life." The room was dead silent except for the humming sound, which was getting louder and more beautiful. Colonel Rodriguez reached for his weapon, but Lisa stepped forward instead. "Who are you?" she asked, surprised by how calm her own voice sounded. The being smiled, and when she did, the blue glow under her skin got brighter. "My name is Zara," she said in that strange voice that came from everywhere and nowhere. "And I have been waiting a very long time to meet someone like you." Lisa couldn't sleep that first night after meeting Zara. How could she? There was an alien woman sitting in their lab, telling stories that changed everything she thought she knew about the universe. And somehow, those stories felt more real than anything she had ever experienced. Zara had asked to speak with Lisa alone. Colonel Rodriguez didn't like it, but there was something about Zara that made arguing seem pointless. Maybe it was the way she looked at people, not like they were strange or dangerous, but like they were precious and worth understanding. "Your people call this place Antarctica," Zara said, her voice still coming from inside Lisa's head rather than through the air. "We called it the Sleeping Garden when we first came here." Lisa pulled her chair closer. "We? There are more of you?" Zara's glow dimmed a little, like a light bulb losing power. "There were. My people are called the Keepers. We've been traveling between stars for longer than your planet has had oceans. Our job was to plant seeds of life on empty worlds and help them grow into something beautiful." The way she said it made Lisa think of gardeners, tending to flowers, across an entire galaxy. "You created life on other planets?" "Not created, guided. Life wants to exist, Dr. Park. It finds a way, always. We just helped it along sometimes. A little change here, a small improvement there. We were very good at—" Gentazara paused and her expression grew sad. "Too good, maybe." Lisa waited. She had learned that sometimes the best way to get someone to talk was to simply listen. "The problem started when I began working on a world called Cathara. The people there were struggling. Their planet was getting colder, and they were dying. Out. My job was to help them adapt, to make them stronger and better suited for their changing world." Zara stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the endless white landscape. Even though she had just come out of what was basically a frozen sleep, she didn't seem bothered by the cold at all. "I spent 50 of your years on Cathara. I watched their children grow up. I saw them fall in love, build families, create art and music. I attended their festivals and mourned at their funerals. And somewhere along the way I stopped seeing them as a job to be completed. You cared about them," Lisa said quietly. "I loved them." The words hung in the air like a confession. "Not romantically, but the way you might love a garden you've tended for years, or a song that moves your heart. They became real to me, not just another species to be improved and left behind." Lisa could hear the pain in Zara's mental voice. That was wrong somehow? Zara turned back to face her, and Lisa could see something that looked almost like tears in those deep, dark eyes. "According to my people, yes. Keepers are supposed to be objective, scientific. We observe, we modify, we move on. We don't get attached. But you did. I did. And when the elders of my people came to check on my progress, they could see it immediately. They said I had been contaminated by emotion, that I could no longer do my job properly because I cared too much about the results. Lisa felt a familiar ache in her chest. She knew what it was like to be told that caring too much was a weakness. What happened to the people on Cathara? They survived. They adapted. Last I heard, they had built a beautiful civilization and were beginning to explore their own solar system, but I was forbidden from ever seeing them again. Zara sat back down, and Lisa noticed that she seemed to be getting weaker. The blue glow under her skin was fainter than it had been earlier. My people decided that I needed to be punished, not just removed from duty but completely exiled. They said that a keeper who loved her subjects was more dangerous than useful. Dangerous. How? Because love makes you fight for things, it makes you question orders, it makes you want to protect instead of just improve. Zara's voice got softer. They were probably right about that. Lisa leaned forward. So they put you in that crystal thing? A stasis pod, designed to keep me alive but unconscious during a very long journey. They launched me toward the edges of known space, expecting that I would drift forever in the darkness between stars. It was meant to be a slow execution disguised as exile. The cruelty of it hit Lisa like a physical blow. They left you to die alone in space. Yes, but they made a mistake. The pod was programmed to wake me if it ever detected a world with intelligent life. They assumed I would never find one drifting in empty space. But your planet's gravity caught me. I've been sleeping under your ice for almost 3,000 years, waiting for someone to find me. Lisa did some quick math in her head. 3,000 years. That's before recorded human history. Your people were just beginning to build their first cities when I arrived. I watched your species grow and change through the pod's sensors. I saw you discover fire, develop language, create art. I watched you reach for the stars. Zara smiled, and for a moment her glow brightened. You became everything my people said was impossible, a species that grew stronger through cooperation, instead of competition, that created beauty for its own sake, that valued love as much as knowledge. You've been watching us this whole time? Not actively. The pod only woke me for brief periods when major changes occurred. But I saw enough to know that humans are remarkable. You are what the keepers could have become if we hadn't forgotten how to feel. Lisa felt a strange mix of pride and sadness. Is that why you're telling me all this? Zara was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, her mental voice was barely a whisper. I'm telling you because I'm dying, Dr. Park. The stasis pod was never meant to keep someone alive for thousands of years. My cellular structure is breaking down. I have maybe days before I fade away completely. The lab suddenly felt very cold and very quiet. Lisa looked at this being who had traveled across the galaxy, who had loved and lost and been punished for caring too much, and realized that she was about to watch her die. There has to be something we can do, Lisa said, surprised by how desperate she sounded. Zara looked at her with those deep, dark eyes, and Lisa saw something she hadn't noticed before. Hope. Tiny and fragile, but definitely there. Maybe, Zara said quietly. But it would require something that has never been tried before. Something that might change both of our species forever. Outside the lab window, the aurora lights were dancing again, painting the sky in colors that seemed to pulse in rhythm with Zara's fading glow. 2 days passed and Zara was getting worse. Lisa could see it happening right in front of her eyes. The beautiful blue glow under Zara's skin was fading like a dying flashlight. Sometimes she would flicker, becoming almost transparent, like she was slowly disappearing from the world. Lisa had barely left the lab. She brought her meals there, slept on the couch, and spent every waking moment trying to find some way to help. But how do you save someone whose body is breaking down at a level that human science couldn't even understand? You should rest, Zara said during one of their late-night conversations. Her mental voice was weaker now, like someone speaking from very far away. You're exhausting yourself for someone you barely know. I know you well enough, Lisa replied, adjusting the monitors that tracked Zara's energy levels. All the readings were dropping. Besides, I've spent my whole career looking for proof that we're not alone in the universe. Now that I've found you, I'm not giving up. Zara smiled, but even that seemed to take effort. Your species never gives up, does it? Even when the situation is hopeless. Especially when the situation is hopeless. Lisa sat down next to her. That's kind of our thing. Outside, Lisa could hear Colonel Rodriguez talking on his radio again. He had been making calls all day, trying to reach his superiors. The communication problems were getting worse, like something was interfering with their signals. Lisa suspected it had to do with Zara's condition, but she hadn't told the colonel that. Dr. Park, Zara said suddenly, her voice more serious than usual. I need to tell you something important. Something that might change how you feel about helping me. Lisa looked up from her notes. What is it? There is a way I might survive. But it would require something from you that I have no right to ask. The way she said it made Lisa's heart beat faster. What kind of something? Zara was quiet for a long moment, like she was trying to find the right words. My people reproduce differently than yours. We don't just create offspring through physical means. We share our essence with another being, combining our life forces to create something new. Lisa frowned. I don't understand. When two keepers decide to have children, they join their minds and bodies completely. They share memories, experiences, even parts of their souls. The offspring that result carry the best qualities of both parents, along with new abilities that neither parent possessed alone. That sounds beautiful, Lisa said, still not understanding why Zara seemed so hesitant to explain it. It is beautiful when it happens between two keepers, but it has never been attempted between a keeper and another species. Zara's glow flickered again. The process would change you, Dr. Park. It would change your children. They would be human, but also something more. Lisa felt her breath catch. You're talking about having children, with me. Not in the way you might think. The joining is more than physical. It's a complete sharing of everything we are. Your memories would become mine, and mine would become yours. The children born from such a union would carry both human, emotion and keeper knowledge. They would be bridges between our worlds. Lisa stood up and walked to the window, her mind racing. Outside, the aurora lights were dancing again, brighter than she had ever seen them. You're asking me to have alien children? I'm asking you to save two species, Zara said quietly. Yours and mine. The children would be raised as humans, but they would carry dormant abilities that could help your people take their next step in evolution. They would understand things that no human has ever understood before. Lisa turned back to face her. And what would happen to me? You would remain yourself, but enhanced. Your lifespan would be extended. Your understanding of the universe would be deeper. You would see connections between all living things that you never noticed before. Zara paused. But you would also carry the burden of being different from everyone else in your species. Lisa thought about her life so far. She had always been different anyway. Too focused on her work, too curious about things that most people couldn't even imagine. She had spent years feeling like she didn't quite fit in anywhere. How long do we have to decide, she asked. Hours, not days. My cellular structure is breaking down faster now. If we're going to do this, it has to be soon. Just then, the lab door opened and Colonel Rodriguez walked in. He looked tired and frustrated. Dr. Park, I need to talk to you, privately. Lisa glanced at Zara, who nodded slightly. I'll be right back, Lisa told her. In the hallway, Colonel Rodriguez looked more serious than she had ever seen him. I've been in contact with command. They're sending a team to collect our guest. What do you mean, collect her? She's not staying here, Dr. Park. This is bigger than our little research station. There are people who need to study her, understand what she is and where she came from. Lisa felt panic rising in her chest. She's not a specimen to be studied, she's a person. She's an alien, and she could be dangerous. We don't know what she's capable of or why she's really here. I know why she's here. She's here because her own people exiled her for caring too much about the species she was trying to help. Colonel Rodriguez crossed his arms. That's what she told you. How do you know it's true? Lisa started to answer, then stopped. How did she know? Because Zara's story felt true? Because she could see the pain in those dark eyes? Because something deep inside her recognized a kindred spirit? I just do, she said finally. That's not good enough, Doctor. The transport team will be here in 6 hours. I suggest you say your goodbyes. After he left, Lisa stood in the hallway for a long time, staring at the closed lab door. 6 hours. That was all the time left before Zara would be taken away to some government facility, where she would be studied like a lab rat until she died. When Lisa went back into the lab, Zara was looking at her with those deep, knowing eyes. You heard, Zara said. It wasn't a question. They're coming for you. I know, I can sense their approach. Zara's form flickered again, more dramatically this time. Dr. Park, I need you to understand something. If you choose to help me, it cannot be because you feel sorry for me, or because you want to save me from your government. It has to be because you believe in what we could create together. Lisa sat down heavily in her chair. I don't know what I believe anymore. Then let me show you. Before Lisa could ask what she meant, Zara reached out and gently touched her hand. Suddenly, Lisa's mind filled with images that weren't her own. She saw worlds covered in crystalline cities that caught starlight and turned it into music. She saw beings of different species working together to solve problems that spanned entire galaxies. She saw children who could speak to animals and heal wounds with their touch. But more than that, she felt the love that connected all of it. The deep, overwhelming love that Zara had for every living thing she had ever encountered. When the vision ended, Lisa was crying. That's what you want to create? That's what we could create. Together, but only if you choose it freely without fear or pressure. Outside, Lisa could hear the sound of aircraft approaching through the storm. The transport team was arriving. Early. I need to give you an answer now, don't I? Lisa said. Zara nodded, her form growing fainter by the minute. Whatever you decide, I want you to know that meeting you has been the greatest gift of my very long life. Lisa looked at this dying alien woman who had traveled across the galaxy and waited 3,000 years under the ice. She thought about the children they could create together, the bridge between worlds that might change everything for both their species. And she thought about the choice that would define not just her future, but possibly the future of all humanity. The sound of the aircraft was getting closer. The aircraft landed with a thunderous roar that shook the entire research station. Lisa could see the bright lights through the lab window, cutting through the Antarctic darkness like searchlights hunting for something precious. Or dangerous. How much time do we have? Lisa asked, her heart pounding so hard she could hear it. Zara closed her eyes, and for a moment Lisa thought she had lost consciousness. Then she spoke, her mental voice barely a whisper. They're suiting up now. Maybe 10 minutes before they reach us. 10 minutes to make a decision that would change everything. Lisa had spent her whole life making careful, measured choices based on research and evidence. But this wasn't about facts and data. This was about faith, hope, and the kind of leap into the unknown that either made you a hero or destroyed you, completely. Tell me about the children, Lisa said suddenly. If we do this, what would they be like? Zara's eyes opened, and despite her weakness, they held a spark of something that might have been hope. They would look human, at least at first. But as they grew, they would develop abilities that your species has never possessed. They would be able to sense the emotions of others, understand languages they had never learned, see connections between all living things. That sounds overwhelming for a child. It would be if they were alone, but they wouldn't be alone. They would have each other, and they would have you. A mother who understands both worlds. Zara's form flickered again like a candle in the wind. They would be the first of a new kind of human, not replacing your species, but helping it grow into something greater. Lisa thought about her own childhood, how different she had felt from everyone around her, How she had always been drawn to the stars, always wondering if there was something more out there. Maybe that feeling of not quite belonging had been preparing her for this moment. What about the government? They'll want to study the children too. The children would appear completely human until they reached adolescence. By then they would be strong enough and smart enough to hide their abilities if they needed to. They would have time to grow up normally, to develop the emotional strength they would need for what comes later. The sound of heavy footsteps echoed through the station's corridors. The soldiers were inside now, making their way toward the lab. Lisa could hear Colonel Rodriguez's voice giving directions, telling them where to find their target. "Zara," Lisa said urgently, "I need to know something. Are you asking me to do this because you want to save yourself, or because you really believe it's the right thing for humanity?" Zara was quiet for a long moment. When she answered, her voice was sad but completely honest. "Both. I don't want to die, Dr. Park. I've been alone for so long, and I've finally found someone who understands me. But if I thought this would harm your species in any way, I would choose to fade away right now." Lisa believed her. Something about the way Zara said it, the pain in her mental voice, convinced Lisa that this alien woman was telling the truth. "The children would be safe with me, safer than they would be anywhere else. You would be their anchor to humanity, their guide to understanding what it means to be human while also being something more." The footsteps were getting closer. Lisa could hear voices in the hallway outside, military personnel coordinating their approach. They would be through that door in minutes. Lisa thought about her life up to this point. 35 years old, dedicated to her work, always searching for something she couldn't quite name. Her few relationships had failed because she was too focused on her research, too obsessed with questions that most people thought were pointless. She had never had children because she had never found someone who understood her passion for discovery. But maybe that had all been leading to this moment. Maybe her whole life had been preparation for a choice that no human had ever faced before. "If I say yes," Lisa said, "what happens next?" "The bonding process is gentle but complete. We would share consciousness for a brief time, and during that, sharing, new life would be created. You would carry 3 children, twins first and a 3rd child later. They would be born human, but with dormant abilities that would emerge as they matured. 3 children. Lisa had never imagined herself as a mother, and now she was being offered the chance to raise 3 extraordinary beings who would bridge 2 worlds. The first 2 would be born within a year. The 3rd would come later when the time was right for humanity to take its next evolutionary step. The lab door rattled as someone tried the handle. Colonel Rodriguez's voice came through. "Clearly, Dr. Park, open this door. We need to secure the area." Lisa looked at Zara, who was now so faint she was almost transparent. In a few more minutes, the decision would be made for her. The soldiers would take Zara away, and she would die in some government laboratory, alone, and far from anyone who cared about her. "I need to ask you one more thing," Lisa said. "Will you still be with me? After the bonding, will I still be able to talk to you?" Zara smiled, and for just a moment her glow brightened. "Part of me will always be with you, not as a separate voice, but as part of who you become. You'll have my memories, my understanding of the universe, my love for all living things. But you'll still be yourself." The door handle turned more forcefully. Someone was trying to break the lock. "Dr. Park, step away from the subject," Colonel Rodriguez called out. "That's an order." Lisa stood up and walked to where Zara lay on the examination table. Up close, she could see that the alien woman was fading fast. Her skin was becoming translucent, and the blue glow that had once pulsed through her veins was now just a faint shimmer. "If we do this," Lisa said quietly, "there's no going back. There's never any going back from the choices that matter most," Zara replied. Lisa heard the sound of power tools outside the door. They were cutting through the lock. She had maybe 2 minutes before the soldiers would burst in and take Zara away forever. She thought about the vision Zara had shown her, worlds full of beings working together, children who could heal and communicate across vast distances. Future where love and understanding connected all living things. Then she thought about her own world, with its wars and hatred and fear of anything different. Maybe it was time for humanity to grow up. Lisa reached out and took Zara's hand. The alien woman's skin was cool but somehow comforting, like touching starlight. "Yes," Lisa said simply. "Let's do this." Zara's eyes filled with something that looked like tears, and her glow suddenly flared brighter than it had been in days. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you for choosing hope over fear." The lab door exploded inward, just as Zara pulled Lisa closer, and the two women began to glow with a light that was neither completely human nor completely alien, but something entirely new. The moment Lisa touched Zara's hand, the world exploded into light. But it wasn't painful or blinding. It was like being embraced by starlight itself, warm and welcoming and infinite. Lisa felt herself floating, not in space but in pure consciousness, where thoughts and memories flowed like rivers of liquid gold. She experienced Zara's entire life in what felt like seconds, but also like centuries. She saw the crystal cities of the Keeper homeworld, felt the joy of watching new species take their first steps toward intelligence, and shared the heartbreak of being cast out for loving too deeply. But more than that, she felt Zara's wonder at humanity, the way humans created art for beauty alone, how they sacrificed for strangers, how they never stopped reaching for dreams that seemed impossible. At the same time, Zara was experiencing Lisa's memories. Her childhood spent gazing at the stars, her years of studying and searching for signs of life beyond Earth, her loneliness and her unshakable belief that there was something greater waiting to be discovered. Through Zara's perspective, Lisa saw that her whole life had been a preparation for this moment, every choice leading her to this precise point in time and space. The bonding was unlike anything either of them had ever experienced. It wasn't just the sharing of genetic material. It was the complete merging of two souls who had been incomplete alone but perfect together. In that sacred space between consciousness and reality, 3 new lives began to form, carrying the best of both worlds within them. When the light faded, Lisa found herself lying on the lab floor alone. The soldiers had burst through the door just in time to see the impossible. 2 figures glowing like small suns, then a brilliant flash that left spots dancing in everyone's eyes. When their vision cleared, there was only Lisa, unconscious but breathing, and no sign of the alien woman anywhere. Colonel Rodriguez knelt beside her, checking for a pulse. "She's alive. What happened to the other one?" The soldiers searched every corner of the lab, but Zara had simply vanished. There was no trace of her existence except for the faint blue glow that still lingered around Lisa's skin, so subtle that only she would notice it later. Lisa woke up 6 hours later in the station's medical bay, with doctors running every test they could think of. Her vital signs were normal, her blood work came back clean, and she showed no signs of radiation exposure or alien contamination. As far as medical science could tell, she was completely human and perfectly healthy. But Lisa knew better. She could feel Zara's presence within her, not as a separate consciousness but as part of her own expanded awareness. She understood things now that she had never understood before. The way quantum particles danced with consciousness, how love was actually a fundamental force of the universe, why some people felt drawn to the stars. The official report stated that Dr. Lisa Park had discovered an unusual ice formation that had caused hallucinations due to unknown atmospheric conditions. The energy readings were explained away as equipment malfunctions, and the entire incident was classified beyond public access. Lisa was transferred to a research position at a university, where she could be monitored without suspicion. 3 months later, Lisa discovered she was pregnant. The doctors were puzzled because there was no father in the picture, but stranger things had happened in the world of reproductive medicine. They assumed it was some kind of delayed fertilization that they didn't fully understand yet. Lisa didn't correct them. She simply smiled and placed her hand on her growing belly, feeling the 2 tiny lives developing within her. She could sense their thoughts already. Even though they were barely formed, they were curious and intelligent and filled with a love for existence that took her breath away. The twins were born on a snowy December morning, exactly 9 months after the bonding. The boy came first, with dark hair and eyes that seemed to hold ancient wisdom. The girl followed minutes later with the same thoughtful expression but a smile that could light up the entire room. Lisa named them Alex and Maya, and from their very first days, she knew they were special. They rarely cried, as if they understood that communication could happen in ways beyond sound. They seemed to respond to her thoughts as much as her words, and sometimes she would catch them staring at each other with perfect understanding, like they were having conversations no one else could hear. As the months passed, the children's abilities began to show themselves in small ways. Alex would somehow know when Lisa was feeling sad and would crawl over to comfort her, even as a baby. Maya would babble in what sounded like different languages, as if she were remembering words from worlds she had never seen. When they started walking, they moved with a grace that seemed almost otherworldly. When they began to talk, they spoke not just in English, but in phrases that Lisa somehow understood despite never having heard the language before. They were learning things that no human children had ever learned, but they were also completely, wonderfully human in their laughter and curiosity and need for love. Lisa raised them quietly, working her university job during the day and spending her evenings teaching them about both sides of their heritage. She told them stories about their father's people, the keepers who traveled between stars to help life flourish. She also taught them about humanity's greatest achievements, the art, music, literature, and acts of kindness that made their species beautiful. Years passed, and the children grew into remarkable young people. Alex developed an ability to sense the emotions of others and heal minor injuries with his touch. Maya showed an incredible talent for understanding complex systems and could communicate with animals in ways that seemed impossible. But more importantly, they were kind, compassionate, and deeply committed to using their abilities to help others. When they turned 16, something extraordinary happened. Lisa woke one morning to find them sitting together in the garden, staring up at the dawn sky with expressions of wonder and recognition. "They're coming, aren't they?" Alex said quietly. Lisa felt her heart skip a beat. "Who's coming?" Maya turned to her with Zara's ancient eyes in a young human face. "Father's people, the keepers. They've been watching, waiting to see if the experiment worked." Lisa looked up at the sky, and for just a moment, she could swear she saw a glimmer of light. That wasn't quite a star. Through her connection to Zara's memories, she understood that this had always been the plan. The children weren't just bridges between two species. They were proof that love could overcome the barriers between worlds. "Are you ready?" she asked them. The twins looked at each other, then back at her, and smiled with the confidence of young people who knew exactly who they were meant to be. "We've been ready our whole lives," Maya said. And as the sun rose over their quiet town, painting the sky in shades of gold and blue, Lisa realized that Zara's greatest gift hadn't been the children themselves. It had been the chance to raise them with love, to show them that being different wasn't something to fear but something to celebrate. The future was uncertain, but it was also full of infinite possibility. And for the first time in her life, Lisa felt like she truly belonged, not just to Earth or to the stars, but to the vast, beautiful connection that linked all living things across the universe. High above them, the morning star seemed to pulse, with a familiar blue glow, as if someone very far away was smiling.